let's get into our Sunday six pack. So stuck with the sweep, the 1 point for everything plus the additional bonus. 45 for you. I got 46, hit my other two. So probably shouldn't have gone against you on the Colts. Because I actually did go. The Steelers were my third Sunday pick. So I did go 3-0 on Sunday after that loss on Saturday, which didn't feel good.
I had nightmares of, the Colts are up 21-0 and started to collapse. I'm like, this is a joke again. And then Taylor breaks the run. I'm yelling for him to go down because the game is over if he goes down. And he scores. So then I'm like sitting there and I'm saying, man, what if the Patriots go down and score a touchdown and then decide to go for two? Because some teams do that now. And I'm like, I cannot lose another 2.5 point favorite like this. But I completely disagreed with and was so happy that Belichick didn't go for a touchdown on that fourth down. I know that he covered it and said that there was a little less time left. But once he kicked that field goal, I was like, whew, I feel safe now. And I don't have to have flashbacks of this getting a back door or anything like that. But it was nice to get home. But we're on to this week.
46-45, 1 point each. I'm up first with the first pick of the week 16 Sunday six pack. I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings +3 at BetMGM against the Los Angeles Rams. Love the Vikings here as a home underdog. First of all, these two teams, I think the Rams are a little bit better. That's what it says on paper. Rams are 7th in weighted DVOA. Minnesota's 13th. Minnesota's at home. Minnesota actually has a little bit longer rest, even though they played on Monday because the Rams played on Tuesday. You have a Vikings team that's going to be, I think, a little more desperate. The Rams, with these COVID issues, they kind of stole 2 games, or at least stole one against the Cardinals. Probably still expected them to beat the Seahawks regardless, but I think they're going to be a little bit less desperate in this spot. Minnesota's been fighting for their playoff lives for weeks now. And this is the kind of spot I love to buy on Minnesota in. Mike Zimmer as an underdog, 33-21, 62% against the spread, 5-2 this season. This is also a spot I love to fade Sean McVay, coming off a multi-game straight up winning streak, 8-21 against the spread, covering just 28% of the time in his career. So with all those accolades, all that success, all these great seasons, comes a little bit of market inflation because every year McVay has the Rams in position, whether it's for the playoffs, whether it's for a Super Bowl run, whether it's just simply a 500 or better record, he's always got them there. But that doesn't translate, necessarily to the spread. It doesn't translate to some of these coin flip games. So 8-21, 2-4 this season against the spread when coming off these multi-game straight up winning streaks. And then I'll just throw it in. I don't know how predictive it is anymore, but we talk about Kirk Cousins all the time. For his career, 22-10, 69% as a underdog at 1 p.m. Eastern, 2-1 this season. He tends to play better early on. But some other big news for the Vikings. Looks like Thielen will make his return this week. He was close last week. The Rams pass rush will obviously be good, but Kirk Cousins is going to get the ball out quick. So I'm, especially if Thielen's going to be back, which it looks like he should. I like his options, in terms of having available pass catchers to get the ball out to. So this is just a good spot to back a Vikings team that should be healthy. Obviously, we don't know what could happen COVID-wise between now and Sunday, but as of now, Vikings should be healthier than the Rams. Rams could still have some guys on the COVID list come Sunday. We'll see. But Vikings home dog, I think these teams are a little bit more evenly matched than the market might think. So getting 3 as a key number, love it for Minnesota at home against the Rams.
Yeah, I probably would have been on this. The key is Thielen, in my opinion. I just, they said he was close last week. He didn't do much in practice today. He needs to play for this offense. I mean, he's so big on third down, so big in the red zone. And then without him, you just have Jefferson, who now will be matched up with Jalen Ramsey, right? So Ramsey's been playing outside more the past couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden it's like, where are we going with the ball? When you have Thielen, you can't cover both of them. And that's the Rams' weaknesses. They don't have elite corner depth. And Thielen is just, he's just so important for that offense in so many different ways. There are a couple things that I do like about the Vikings, and I don't know if I'm going to go teaser or side with them because I do think there's value. I think this game should be closer to 1 pick-ish, depending on Thielen's status. But there's a couple things I like about this Vikings roster moving forward. They've upgraded their roster internally. So, like, they got rid of Rashad Breeland, who's one of the worst corners in the NFL, and Dantzler's been a lot better. They got Darrisaw about midway through the year back, and he's been playing pretty well. But most importantly, they got Rashad Hill out of there. He's the worst graded tackle in the NFL. Then you get, Mason Cole, who's playing for Udo at guard. You made that switch. Cole's playing a lot better than Udo. Garrett Bradbury at center. He's starting to play a lot better over the past couple of games. So there's a couple things that I like. And then the red zone defense for Minnesota. You saw it last week against Chicago just shine. All the reports from Zimmer all we're doing is working on red zone D, red zone D, red zone D. They're top 10, top 5 every year. It's like one of those things. The Vikings, Zimmer's defense, third down and red zone D. And this year they're 22nd. So I expect some positive regression in that aspect as well. A couple things that I don't like is if Thielen can't go, it's just, this offense is really going to struggle. And Cooper Kupp, who's just ripping up the league, plays about 60% of his snaps in the slot. That means he's going to be matched up against Mackenzie Alexander, who is the worst graded corner in the NFL out of 117 qualified corners this year. So that's not great. It's like they're going to have to double him. I'm not sure what they're going to have to do there. And the other thing that I want to mention is Kirk Cousins. Yes, he's a lot better in daytime, which is worth noting. He rips up man defense. I mean, over the past 3 years, he leads the NFL in points added against man defense. At one point, I think in October, November, over a 3-year stretch, he had 35 touchdowns, no interceptions against man, 35 touchdowns, 17 interceptions against zone. He rips up man with these receivers, Thielen and Jefferson, who are man beaters. LA plays as much zone as anyone in the NFL. So that's another thing that I'll worry about. But I do think there's value in this line. Desperate team. You get the Rams off of, playing on Tuesday now. They're going on the road to one of the most hostile environments in the NFL. I think it is Vikings or nothing, but just wanted to throw out a couple devil's advocate.
We know with the Vikings, anytime you pick the Vikings, there's a whole devil's advocate. Like, this is the most stressful team to bet on. I'm sure it's stressful to be a fan. The one thing I'll say about the man coverage, and that is a good point, Cousins absolutely does better against man. It's because he's a guy who's going to go with the right read. And, if a guy's singled up, that's advantage Cousins.
And he's got 2 great receivers that just crush man.
But I would say this. If they've been using Ramsey outside more, but if they're not playing man, that means you can also get Jefferson to more advantageous places. You know what I mean? Because then you can motion him, you can do different things, you can line him up in the slot, see what happens. And if anything, you're at least going to get the defense to dictate. So that's the one thing about the Rams, which is it's interesting that they're playing some zone this year, and they've been doing fine with it. I mean, there were a couple of plays with Ramsey on Metcalf yesterday where Russell Wilson's just still off, because there were plays where Ramsey got beat, and then he just at the last second would jump in and get a deflection that really he shouldn't have gotten if Wilson just throws a more accurate ball. So, I don't know if normally I wouldn't say Cousins is more accurate than Wilson, but I would say Cousins is more accurate than Wilson. So yeah, I agree. Thielen is big, but still a good spot for Minnesota. Home dog getting 3.
All right, for my first pick and the second overall pick of the Week 16 6-pack, I'm going with the Arizona Cardinals -1 at BetMGM at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, I am backing Cliff and Kyler, fading Kyler. There's a lot of things that I do not like about this Cardinals team. One of them is, Kyler Murray has just been off. He's 24th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectations since week 8. Cliff Kingsbury, by the way, we talk about he fades down the stretch. He's sick. He's 18-8 against the spread over the first 8 weeks, and he's 9-11-2 thereafter in his career. But there's a couple things that I like about this spot and this matchup, and I think that this is a classic buy low, sell high spot. Cardinals go on the road. They lose as double-digit favorites to the Lions, get blown out. Meanwhile, the Colts have an emotional win over the Patriots and now go out on the road to Arizona. So let me put some numbers to that. Teams coming off of a loss as a favorite in which they didn't cover by at least 24 points, 106, 62-2 against the spread since 2003. That's 63%. When that team has a winning percentage over 50%, 52-24 against the spread, 68% since 2003, covering by about 6 points per game. It's a 33% ROI. And how about when this happens in week 14 or later? 17-4 against the spread, 81%. And when the previous loss came against the team with a losing record in that fashion, 25-9 against the spread, 73.5%. So there are just many they just speak to the buy low, sell high nature of the NFL market. If the Cardinals don't lay an egg last week and the Colts lose to the Patriots, and they got some fortunate bounces, then this line is over 3, right? And the Cardinals are over a 3-point favorite here. The Colts are getting very beneficial in turnovers, just like Arizona, but Indianapolis has actually been a little luckier. Colts NFL leading plus 14 turnover margin. Opponents have lost 14 of 22 fumbles. And when I look at this from a matchup perspective, the Colts don't really generate pressure. They're, about 19% on pressure rate. That's the third lowest in the league. The only other teams under 20 are the Falcons, Bears, and Giants. Like, you're in poverty. So Colts also league low QB hurry rate, and they play a lot of zone, and that's not great versus Kyler Murray, who eats up zones. And Colts have also struggled against non-standard runs, right? I talked about this last week when one of the reasons I like them against the Patriots is because they are so good at just stopping backs and power rushing attacks. But quarterbacks who run, when you get some receivers involved in the running, like non-standard runs, the Colts have struggled a bit. So I think that Kyler Murray, with his legs and the fact that you're not generating pressure, he can buy time, find holes in the zone, use his legs here to generate some plays. And I also think there's some regression coming for Wentz. He's begging for turnovers. He's begging for picks to start coming. So I just think this is a classic buy low, sell high spot on the Cardinals. I still think that we'll still be looking to sell the Cardinals as soon as we get to the playoffs. I think the Colts have higher upside than the Cardinals, but this is a good matchup for Kyler Murray. Good chance to bounce back. And I think some value on the Cardinals. I mean, I have these teams really close to even for my power ratings. A lot of people have like the Cardinals number 2 in the league. Throw in home field, throw in the spot, throw in the matchup. I'll happily take the Cardinals here as a 1-point favorite and hope the Colts, who have treated me very well this year, just come out a little flat, and Wentz gives us a couple picks.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that scares me in this one is, and it's hard for me to gauge this because
it's Cliff.
Well, no, honestly, Cliff doesn't scare me as much anymore. I mean, I think really the thing that scares me is Jonathan Taylor. It's just like, I almost don't know how to account for him in modeling anymore. It's like, I was talking to Kerner about this, but like usually, you're projecting guys for fantasy. Like if a guy gets to 5 yards per carries at some point in the season, it's amazing because there's a lot of regression, randomness in that. So you need a large sample size of a guy, carrying at like a high efficiency to get there. And like Jonathan Taylor is just smashing that this year. And so it's like I agree. I think the spot is great. I could see Jonathan. I mean, he's probably just going to get his, it's like I guess it's kind of like betting against the Titans. It's like you had to just.
Taylor's going to get his, especially against the Cardinals. He's going to get his no matter what. I mean, if you look at over
the issue, it's like Cooper Kupp is going to get his on the Vikings. Yeah. But no, I like the spot for Arizona. I might end up joining here, but just wanted to point that out. Like Jonathan Taylor scares the living shit out of me.
Of course.
All right. Let's go to my second pick and the third overall of the week 16 weekend 6-pack. I am going with the Las Vegas Raiders -1.5 against the Broncos. And this is on paper, pretty evenly matched game. Denver 18th in overall DVOA, Vegas 21st. But for me, there's just a massive drop off from Bridgewater to Locke. And it might not be evident for some people, but I just think the way the Broncos want to play, Teddy Bridgewater was perfect, even though he's kind of an average at best quarterback, relative to the league. Compared to Drew Lock, it's just night and day. First of all, Bridgewater on the road was 24-6 against the spread in his career, 80%. He was 42-21 overall against the spread. And that's because he doesn't really turn the ball over, not going to make a ton of mistakes, can deliver the ball accurately most of the time, even if it's not always deep down the field. And it's just, when you look at Locke, look at the passer rating in 2020 with pretty much the same kind of group of guys. I know he didn't have Sutton for as much, but 75 passer rating, 5.8 adjusted yards per attempt. Bridgewater in 2021, 95 passer rating, 7.3 adjusted yards per attempt. So you're talking about 20 points of rating and a yard and a half of adjusted yards per attempt, which for those that don't know, it's just the regular yards per attempt, but you're adding a plus 20 adjustment for each touchdown, passing, and a minus 40 for each interception. So, just kind of even out, give a yardage value essentially for touchdowns and picks. But a yard and a half, and even if you apply some regression, like a yard, anything over a yard, that's a massive drop in terms of your expected, point differential. Like now you're talking like over a point into multiple points when you start getting to a yard or more of differential here. And this season, not to mention Locke, even worse than last year, 59 rating on 40 attempts and 3.9 adjusted yards per attempts. That's not even to mention that fumble that he just kind of gave away to the Bengals, which, that I was glad for that to happen because I had the Bengals in that game. But, Denver's going to run the ball. I just don't know if Denver has enough here with Drew Lock, because without Lock, with Bridgewater there, it's like, okay, now Denver just has to play a mistake-free game, and they probably have they have a shot against the Raiders, especially if you're just talking about covering anything under a field goal. But now the Raiders have a margin for error, and the Broncos really don't. And even with Bridgewater, as I pointed out, heading into the game against Cincinnati, the Broncos started the year with the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. Three of the worst teams in the NFL. 27-13, 23-13, 26-0. So that's a 76-26 differential. Ever since then, it's been 201 to 217 in favor of the opponent. So since then, they're minus 16, 25.1 points per game over those first three games. Since then, they failed to go above 20 in 7 of 11 games. So this offense, even with Bridgewater, have been struggling mightily against, a little bit more league average competition. And I don't think the Raiders are bottom tier. I definitely think they're not even average. They're probably below average at best, but they're not in that giant Jaguar tier. Drew Lock at the helm. I think the Raiders get it going here. Kind of saw them in a similar game against the Browns, and they eked one out at the end. It was ugly. I expect something similar here. So, this is one I got it at a +1. I would like it up to 2.5, 3. I don't think I'd feel comfortable past that, but I'd say the sooner you get the lower you get the number, obviously the better, because it could be another one of those 16-14 slugfests. But just the drop off from Lock to Bridgewater is too much for me to ignore in this offense, especially when they're just not doing a good job of utilizing the pieces that they have outside of Williams and Gordon. I mean, Sutton has disappeared. Patrick has disappeared since he signed a contract, except for, a momentary flashes here and there. He's not been that same consistent guy with all three of him, Judy and Sutton on the field. And then Judy, kind of goes missing and still hasn't found the end zone this year. Fanton, Okwuegbunam kind of, they're solid, but they're not making difference making plays. The offensive line, sometimes the starters look worse than the backups. It's just not an offense that I expect to do much here against the Raiders.
Yeah, I can't get behind this one. Maybe if Darren Waller plays, but that's just such a huge name to keep your eye on. I don't think he's going to play, but he's just so important to that offense. He opens up things for Renfro. You got to double him, and just without him, the offense is just. I mean, look at what this Raiders team has done after the bye week. They've had 7 games after the bye. They're 2-5. Their wins came over the Cowboys on Thanksgiving due to 30 points because of penalties. Sean Hockley wanted them to win for whatever reason. And the Browns, the Browns JV team. That's it. They've only surpassed 17 points once, and that was the Sean Hockley game. In all 7 of those games, their defense is 31st in EPA per play over that stretch. So they're kind of in free fall. They have these two really lucky wins. They got a field goal at the buzzer, then an overtime win against, JV team and ref assisted. Drew Lock is starting. I trust the Denver defense and their run game a little bit more. I prefer just to tease the Broncos up, but I'll get to that in a bit. All right, so for my second pick and the fourth overall of the Week 16 six-pack, I'm going with the Carolina Panthers plus 10. See if you can get a plus 10.5, plus 11 out there. This line is just way too high for a road division game with a banged up Bucs team. I think a lot of it is Brady off a loss, angry Brady. By the way, can't we call taunting calls on Brady? We call them on everyone else for just looking at people, but Brady's like, fuck you in coaches' faces, and we don't call taunting on him. Must be nice, Tom. But that was a beautiful thing for my under last week, just watching Tom.
Oh my goodness, that was the undercall of the year, just like 9-zip.
And I don't think anyone got inside the 20 the entire time. But anyway, Brady's 42-16 against the spread off a loss, 72%. I mean, just stunning. Last year, after the Saints rolled him and held him to 3 points, he went up to Carolina and destroyed them. But he's just 11-12 in this spot as a favorite of 7 or more points. So a lot of times, when he's a dog or a favorite of 7 or less, he's 31-4 against the spread in this spot. This is different, laying double digits on the road in a division game with no Godwin, no Evans, no Fournette. Levante David is out. I mean, you saw what this offense looked like when all their skill position players went out. You got Gronk. Well, guess what? The Panthers are really good against tight ends. And then you got Antonio Brown coming back. But presumably he's fully healthy. Great. That's all you have to shut down. So, and the other thing is that Carolina has the defense that can give Brady problems, right? They can play a lot of man and they can generate pressure up front. Panthers have a league high 29.7% pressure rate. Brady 57.6 adjusted completion percentage and 5.6 yards per attempt under pressure this year. That's 28th and 24th among qualified quarterbacks. That's what you have to do. Throw Brady off his game, play man, get pressure. Cam Newton's going to get the start, which sucks. At this point, I'd rather have Sam Darnold in, but Sam Darnold's going to play is the word. So if
what does that even mean?
Cam Newton is completely inept and hopefully he's not throwing picks, then you got Sam Darnold in there. The thing that Sam Darnold can do well is throw short passes. So that's like what you need to do to move the ball against Tampa. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Tampa's run defense hasn't been as dominant as usual, but I'm not going to sit here and make a case for the Carolina offense. I just think this is too many points against a really crippled Tampa offense. I don't care about Brady off the loss. And this is basically, Panthers been so disappointed. This is now their Super Bowl, right? I mean, a home game against the defending champs and Tom Brady. This is it for them. This is going to be either their season highlight or low light. They're not going anywhere this year, so it comes down to this. But at the end of the day, this line is too high with the cluster injuries that the Bucs have. And so, yeah, I'm going with Carolina.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'd like to get confirmation that Evans, is going to be in or out first. I think he is worth a lot to this line, or more than usual at wide receiver.
I just doubt they would play him. Like, they're in the playoffs. It doesn't look good for a 1 seed. It's a hamstring. You already lost Godwin. Why are you going to risk Evans' hamstring, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he's active, it just changes the game, because then you have Gronk, Brown, and Evans. That's kind of like having Godwin, Evans.
Yeah, if Evans plays, it's completely different, because the Carolina has some injuries at corner now. And
Gilmore did practice, but Bouye went on IR. Gilmore came out and
said, I don't know why I was on the list, so he'll play. But yeah, I just don't see how, if you're Tampa, you can throw your double-digit favorites. You're probably going to win this game anyway. You can throw Evans out there after you've already lost Godwin, after you've already lost Fournette, and throw him out there with a hamstring injury that can linger. I mean, you can rest him. They got the Jets next. I assume they're going to rest him for 3 straight weeks.
Yeah. That's kind of the only thing. It's same thing with the total on this game. It's like, I would like the under, but Evans hasn't been officially ruled out yet. He was a DNP on Wednesday. So we kind of have to see how that one goes, but you're still getting double digits for a home divisional dog. So don't hate it. All right. For my third pick and the 5th overall of the Week 16 weekend 6-pack. I'm going with the Baltimore Ravens plus 2.5 at Cincinnati. This is one I would recommend holding off, see if we get the 3. Obviously, depending on what happens with Lamar, might even go higher than that. I think Baltimore closed plus 9 against Green Bay last week after sitting at, anywhere from 4 to 6 for most of the week. But on paper, these teams are fairly even. Baltimore 16th in overall DVOA, Cincinnati 19th. This is a big revenge spot for the Ravens, who gave up 41 in a blowout loss as favorites to Cincinnati at home earlier in the year. And, I faded Cincinnati prior to last week. I had faded them 3 weeks in a row, went 2-1. Then I backed them last week and won that. So they've been treating me pretty well, 3-1 over the last 4 weeks, betting on or against Cincinnati. I'm going against them here. That's because they're inconsistent. Even with that cover and win last week, they scored only 15 points. Their offense didn't play nearly as well against a defense that plays predominantly man coverage as I thought they would. Now, Denver did mix in more zone. I expect Baltimore to do a little bit more of the same just because it worked well for Denver last week. Same kind of team here. I just don't know if I can trust this Bengal offense now to do this the second time, what they did in the first game. After, Baltimore now, kind of saw what they had, saw where they went wrong. 41 points. Jamar Chase, they just let him go nuts. Obviously, it's not easy to cover Chase, but what do you have? 1 catch last week. So he's been kind of down more than up since that big game. I think the advantages in terms of adjustments go to Baltimore here. I think that, the desperation now, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, you were fading Baltimore, kind of fat and happy. Well, now they've lost a bunch of heartbreaking games. So now they're kind of reeling. They really need this one. Cincinnati's now on top of the division. So Baltimore really needs this one for the tiebreaker. I expect a desperate effort from Baltimore. Cincinnati just 19 points per game in their last 3 games. And I've mentioned this before, which is why I was kind of selling on Cincinnati kind of around that midseason point and on. 2.7 points on average below league average in terms of the schedule they've faced. That is the highest in the league by nearly a full point, which means according to adjusted strength of schedule, they have had the easiest schedule by nearly a full point per game over the next lowest team. So, Cincinnati, I think that, they're on top of the division. They finally got a win after a couple games where people, I think, expected them to play better than they actually did. But I just don't trust them against a desperate Baltimore team. I think even if Huntley plays, I really like what I saw out of him. And I don't know, I want to get your opinion on this stuff. Obviously, the Ravens better than anyone. But I just wanted to kind of get your opinion on, like, do you think, like, is Huntley just adjusting better to, like, the schemes that defenses are throwing at the Ravens than Jackson was? Because it seemed like teams are going to, like, these cover 0 kind of looks where, they would send a lot of rushers at Jackson, and they would kind of use, like, these man zone match techniques in the back end, not like a true cover 0, but kind of take the inside outside, have 3 or 4 defenders defending their receivers, force the, if the backs are going to, and tight ends are going to stay in, they bring that rusher, but they just kind of waste an extra pass protector. Like, it just seemed like Jackson wasn't picking that up, and Huntley, he just looks a little more decisive out there. I don't know if that's just like small sample or what, but I feel good about it. But most of all, I love Harbaugh in these spots, regardless of who he's got at quarterback. In his career, 31-21, 61% against the spread as a road dog. And divisional road games from week 10 on, excluding the last week of the season when, not always everyone playing for the same thing, but week 10 on divisional road games, 12-1-2 against the spread, 92%. The only loss against the spread was that game against the Steelers. And I believe we were both on them in that game. So really like the spot for the Ravens, but really curious to hear your thoughts on exactly, what's going on with, like, Huntley versus Jackson, because it just hasn't felt like as much of a drop off as you'd expect.
No, I mean, Huntley, undrafted, looks great. And he was really good at Utah. I was surprised he didn't get drafted, but and by the way, Lamar Jackson is considered day-to-day, so we'll see. if the Ravens lose this game, it's not the end of their season. They just have to win out. I mean, they have to beat the Rams and then the Steelers at home to close out the year. So I don't know if
not easy.
No, it's not easy. But if he's not fully healthy, they might think that they can try to win with Huntley. It's not like it's a win or go home. Lamar's 9-1 against the spread as an underdog for what it's worth, 7-3 outright, and the Ravens are 11-1 against the spread in their last 12 in December. But Huntley's just teams. Look, he played against the Browns from 21 down when the Browns were playing really soft, and then last week he played extremely well. He had two rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. I mean, Lamar Jackson's never done that in his career in a game. But the Packers were trying to cover Mark Andrews with Savage 1-on-1, which is pretty funny. But he's just.
I don't think the Packers are trying to cover Mark Andrews.
No, teams are still trying to they don't have a lot of tape on him, right? So he has different tendencies and they're running different stuff, and so he has that newness factor. But he's also just going with the read and firing it and looking for Andrews a lot, which is smart. He has the 8th fastest time to throw of all qualified quarterbacks this year, and Lamar's at the 5th slowest. So, and then Lamar, I don't know if he was a little hurt or he was just getting indecisive with all the different looks that he was getting. So the offense looks like it's functioning even better right now with Huntley under center. But there are a couple things I do not like about this game. One, I do like Mark Andrews have a huge game. Gaither's on IR. They said Logan Wilson's not going to play. You can eat over the middle of the field against the Bengals, especially with Wilson out. So I do love that. But I just don't know. The corners for the Bengals have been great for whatever reason. Awuzie, who I think is going to be back, Hilton and Apple, all top 15 in coverage grade since week 9. I do think their defense is a bit overrated overall. But the one thing that scares me is this Ravens defense. I don't know how they're going to get any stops. I don't know who's playing corner. I don't know who's playing on the defensive line. I mean, Brandon Williams, Campbell. But their corners, Humphrey's on IR. Peters is on IR. You got Averett. Anthony Averett is playing. It's not great. Tavon Young, concussion protocol. Jimmy Smith is still out on concussion protocol. Westry, questionable. You got Robert Jackson and Kevin Seymour. These are 9th and 10th string guys that you were playing last week. So it's really tough, especially when you consider Joe Burrow, who ripped them up the first time they played, is number 1 in the NFL against man coverage, number 1 in the NFL against the blitz. And that's what the Ravens want to do to generate pressures. They want to blitz and they want to play man. And I don't know how they can cover all these Bengals receivers. So I would need 3 here. And then obviously I have to assume that Jackson is better than Huntley, although you could argue that the offense is operating, but it's a very small sample size in favorable situations. Remember, they were down 2 possessions in the fourth quarter of both games. But that's what scares me. I don't know how the Ravens defense is going to get stops. I don't hate the under. I mean, I don't hate the over as a result.
Yeah, how they're going to I'm banking on a couple of things. Number one is Huntley, even if it is in these situations where they're just coming from behind, I don't expect another blowout is what I'm saying. I don't expect the Bengals to just run away with it. But even if they, if you need a back door here, maybe the Ravens are down 10, that obviously would be better for the 3. Which is why I'm hoping to get it. But I'll still go. I think the Ravens have a good chance to win this game. But Zach Taylor, that's what's really held the Bengals offense back at times. Because Burrow's been efficient and had big numbers all year, and yet their offense, like I said, just under 20 points per game over their last 3. It's just Jamar Chase really hasn't blown up since that Ravens game, and I just think it's a adjustment advantage Ravens and more desperate team Ravens. Obviously I'm not going to sit here and make a case for the Ravens defense. They usually, they find a way, but it would almost be good if maybe Martindale thought twice about having to blitz so much and play so much man in this matchup. I think if he kind of did sit back and play a little more zone, and maybe he will because Burrow ripped him apart in the first matchup. Maybe he will. But I think that would actually be good for them in this spot because I think that offense, it just can hang in there, given Huntley's ability to create off script and just be decisive. And the Bengals are going to play some zone defense. So I think he'll still be able to get the ball to where he wants it to go more often than not. So that's kind of what I'm banking on. But I'm not going to sit here and make a case for the Ravens defense. It's not a good defense. I think it's bottom 6, 27th in the league in DVOA. The Ravens are going to win this game by, being able to hang in there on offense, but also with this Bengals offense, really making mistakes, because that's what we've seen. And now, you say that stuff kind of regresses, but it's 14 games into the season. Joe Burrow tied for the league lead in interceptions with 14 and leads the league in sacks taken with 44. So that's how you're going to keep the Ravens in a game and potentially even blow this game. Despite the fact that, you obviously have some weapons on the outside. That's true every week for the Bengals. I mean, I think Higgins only missed what, like one or two games. Chase hasn't missed any games. Boyd hasn't missed any games. Usoma hasn't missed any games. Mixon, I think, is missed one game. Like they've had their guys all year. So it's just been mistakes have been an issue for them. All right.
Yeah. Well, this is the worst secondary in the league right now. But just from a personnel perspective, their safeties are all out too. But I'll be rooting for you. I don't know if I'm going to be. I went 3. I'll probably be on a tease here. I think it's a good tease piece from 2.5 up to 8.5. All right. For my third pick of the Sunday 6-pack and the 6th overall, I am going with the Cleveland Browns plus 7.5 at BetMGM. It's not something I love doing, fading Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau, and he's been pretty much automatic against the spread this year. But I think this line is too high. I make it closer to 5. And if you look at some of the Browns' results, like so many fluky losses, like PI against the Chargers, the botched punt against the Chiefs. There's that Ravens game. There's a lot of games that they could have won. This is a much better team, I think, overall than 7-7. They just have a COVID game. They've had weather games. They've had a lot of injuries. Their quarterback, running backs. I think that they are going to get most of their offense back here. They won't have Hunt, but it looks like everyone should test out on offense. And on defense, the biggest question is Myles Garrett with his groin, and then Clowney because McKinley's out for the year. So, and that's so big, but I think Garrett's going to give it a go. Clowney, it's going to come down to testing. And I don't know, but it's big because Rodgers under pressure this year, 29th in adjusted completion percentage, 28th in yards per attempt, 7 big-time throws, 6 turnover-worthy throws, 61 quarterback rating. That's 23rd. When he's clean, 24 touchdowns, 1 interception, 123 quarterback rating. It's not even close. No one's even close to him. So that's a big thing here. But the Packers have injuries of their own. I mean, Billy Turner's hurt. You have, Bakhtiari is not playing. Jenkins, Josh Myers, your center. You basically only have one of your original starters on the offensive line. And I think that this is a decent matchup for the Browns. Just go in there, run the ball, December game. You're going against a run D that's 25th in the league against the run, DVOA. Kenny Clark's on COVID list. Valdes-Scantling's on the COVID list as well. Browns win out, they go to the playoffs. You'll get a desperate effort here. I think this line is too high based on what we saw last week. I know it's a short week. They're going to Lambeau. But I think that this is too many points over a touchdown. This Packers teams are getting pretty fortunate in a number of different departments and in these close games. I think the Browns can keep this within a touchdown. And if you get like Garrett and Clowney both play, I could see the Browns winning this game outright. So I just think that there's some value in this number over a touchdown. So give me the Brownies.
Yeah, this was another one that I'm not really on this one. I'd rather tease the pack down. I feel like the issue with the Packers last week against the Ravens was, well, number one, they were on the road. They never play as good on the road as in Lambeau. But number two, their issues in pass defense, they seem to be overachieving all year in pass defense. You've kind of pointed it out. I don't know how. They're 19th in DVOA, which doesn't look great, but I mean, they could easily be like 25th to 30th, given some of the injuries they've had. But they just didn't seem to want to keep contained on Huntley. And Mayfield's not a scrambling threat. Now, this is not a pressure spot for Mayfield necessarily. The Packers aren't going to get a ton of pressure, but I just worry about this Browns defense. If they get behind, they're 23rd against the pass. Like if they get behind, I don't know if they can keep it close here. So I'd rather tease the pack down, just kind of enjoy the Rodgers at Lambeau trends that hit above 60%. But I'll root for you on this one. You root for me on Baltimore, and hopefully we go 6-0 on the spot. Damn, almost got it. If I hadn't bet against you last week, we would have had it. That's my bet. Of course. So that's going to wrap it up for our Week 16 weekend 6-pack presented by our friends at The Athletic Brewing Company. To recap, Stuck is going with Arizona -1, Carolina +10, and Cleveland +7.5. I'm going with Minnesota +3, Vegas -1.5, and Baltimore +2.5.